Greetings. Welcome to ITR Live. I'm your host, Chris Hagenow, and we are back here in the Hendrickson Library at the Center for the Preservation of Western Civilization at ITR World Headquarters in Central Iowa. John Hendrickson and myself here ready to thrill and excite on another fun-filled, action-packed episode in the gold standard in Iowa conservative entertainment. Did that come out right that time?
It did, yes.
Okay,
yeah,
that was
yeah,
take two
yeah.
because it's been so long since we've come here and done this. I couldn't even get through the intro.
Well, we're two asthmatics that are struggling today, so.
Oh, it's winter time. You're an Iowan by choice, but I can't believe that the winter's any easier on that in the great north.
No.
But could. Yeah, we're here. We're here because we choose to be here, and good. Well, we've had a Thanksgiving holiday since the last time we were here. Mm-hmm. We've had, I wouldn't say that there's been anything huge happening in Iowa politics. The big thing right now, I think, is getting ready for the legislative session. And so there's a lot of these preview meetings, roundtables. You've been to some of them.
We're about a month away now.
Yeah, about a month away. And so you're starting to see a little bit more of the reports in the media of what to expect coming out of this. There's a handful of these that are a little higher profile that you get news out of that the media typically hits on. So, I don't know if there's anything earth-shattering. There's still a lot of talk about property taxes. Are you any more excited about a senior property tax freeze than you were last time we visited, John?
No, not at all.
Nobody's talked about a public policy think tank professional property tax freeze yet, just seniors.
No.
Okay, all right, well... Yeah. I want my freeze too. Yeah. However, we have to define that. I am, one of these days I did get, did I share this with our listeners? I actually got my first senior discount recently.
No.
Yeah, I was at my local farm store. It was great. I was checking out. The guy's like, hey, do you want your senior discount? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, so I got 10% off.
That's wonderful.
I think I was buying a bag of hard candy or something, but it was great.
Yeah.
So I'm there now. Maybe I could. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the threshold. It's not when you reach 65. It's when you get your first senior discount at the farm store. Yeah. That's when you qualify for the senior freeze. Then I'm in.
Yeah, and I'm longing for the day where I can order from the 55 plus menu at Perkins.
Yes, John Hendrickson's been waiting for that since he was 12.
That's right.
So, but
that turkey and dressing special looks good.
That's fantastic. All right, we got a lot to cover today. It's going to be a great show. A reminder that we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we are on Apple, we're on wherever, unless you really have some bizarre podcasting platform you use, we're on it. So check it out and make sure that you're like and subscribe to all that. John, let's quickly go through trivia.
Yes,
so we got last time, what was the question? What was the answer? Who won? And give us this week's.
I apologize to our listeners. I don't remember how I worded the question, but the answer was the Mayflower Compact.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember now. Yep.
And our first winner was the Stifler family.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah, we have video proof of this too.
Yeah, they sent a nice video message. Very excited to answer the question. So congratulations to them.
And that is the Kristen Stifler, the director of the Iowa Civil Rights Commission.
Yes,
correct?
yeah.
Okay, good. I want to make sure we got the title right. Yep.
And so her family, her children answered the question right away. The Mayflower Compact, and also our good friend Representative Bill Gustav came in.
Can we just started like.
Came in very
judicial
close
notice of the fact that Bill answered and got it right.
Right. Yep. So that was our only two winners from last week.
Good. What do we got?
So I have one this week. It might be a little difficult, but it's I think it'll be interesting. But it has to do with the Civil War this time, and so we're in December.
First time for everything.
Yeah, that's right. So we're in December of 1862, and winter campaigns were rare in the Civil War. But in 1862, there was two major offensives that occurred in the Civil War. One in the Eastern Theater in Virginia, ended in a disastrous defeat for the Union Army. It was a major victory for the Confederates. So we're looking for what battle was that in 1862, in December of 1862. And also the second major winter's offensive occurred in the Western Theater, what they would consider Central Tennessee area. And that was actually it's a forgotten campaign, but it resulted in a sort of a glimmer of hope for the Union in a very dark time in 1862. And this one was interesting because it started in the end of December and spilled over into 1863. But the interesting thing about this battle is that it actually had more casualties than either Shiloh or Antietam.
Wow.
And it's forgotten. And so we're looking for the names of those two campaigns in December of 1862.
Okay. Well, there you go, folks. Let's see who's got it. I have no idea. So that's why we keep you around.
That's right.
Okay. Good. Okay. So turning to policy, what's going on around. I didn't really have this planned for today, John, but I just want us to take note of the fact that the city of Des Moines gave $7 million last night to the soccer stadium because we've talked about that, right? Did you see this?
I didn't realize that was official.
They voted for it last night.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but that was my understanding.
Okay.
So,
and
the way the article I read is that this is green lighted now, and
I felt lost last night because I missed my news. I was at a meeting and I didn't get my update. So
well, anyway, I can. Yeah. Well, I don't. Yeah, here.
I know that was on the agenda, I think.
Yeah.
So
no, they voted. This is Des Moines Register. Yeah. So anyway, so we're getting that stadium. I hope the taxpayers get their money's worth out of this. I genuinely do. Now that it's done, I hope that it is a huge economic boon to Central Iowa, and we get an incredible amount of new economic activity, and everything that has been promised will come true. Right? I mean, yeah. I think it's a mistake.
I think it's interesting how these local governments complain about not having enough money, but yet they're doing this.
Can't any form of limitation on a local government budget means there will immediately be less police and less fire out on patrol, and yet they inevitably have money for economic development incentives or handouts or developer agreements or whatever. Every time. I read
a story this morning, actually, it was a community back in Minnesota, and I give them credit for this, to prevent a property tax increase in order to make sure that they hold the line, and so their taxpayers didn't get an increase. The council basically did a bunch of cutting. They cut up to $1 million, which doesn't seem like a lot, but for this community was a significant chunk. And so I give them credit for doing that. I mean that's what conservative budgeting is. And so they stood up for their taxpayers and they said, look, we're going to focus on the priorities. And so they zeroed out some positions and made some tough decisions, and they weren't throwing out economic incentive deals. And so I just wanted to share that story because there is examples of where local governments can make reductions.
Yep. Look, what we've talked about before, we'll talk about it again, and we won't belabor the point right now, but it's just another example of government picking winners and losers for specific projects that they want in the name of some nebulous idea of growth or engineering a different community. I don't buy it. I think that is a premium piece of land down there that somebody's going to want to develop one way or the other, but local leaders decided they wanted a soccer stadium there, so we're going to get a soccer stadium.
As Nixon said, we're all Keynesians, so maybe there'll be a multiplier effect. And
of course there is, John. Yeah. Good. Good. Nixon references are always appreciated here on the podcast. I definitely wasn't going to mention this one until I was looking at the article on the soccer stadium, but I kind of forgot to include this, John, and I don't want to make this one of the major things we talk about, but President Trump yesterday announced a massive, I guess we'll call it aid package for farmers to compensate them, I guess. If I'm not using the right terminology, then let me know, but to compensate them for a lack of access to markets and lower grain prices because of tariffs. Give me your short thought on that.
excuse me. It's $12 billion, I believe, and originally the president had said that this would come from tariff revenues, but I think the Secretary of Ag said it's going to come from another source.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I'm not
so
sure where it's coming from, but so there's been differences on that. But anyways, there's I think the details are yet to be hammered out of how much this is going to be divvied out per farmer. But this is interesting because we probably don't have time to get into the whole debate on the whole issue of why this had to happen in the first place. But this is something that the president had to do in the first administration as well, and now he's doing it again because again China holding that leverage over us, and now we're starting to see. I saw where our trade ambassador announced that China is starting to holding up some of that agreement and starting to buy some soybeans now, so that's a good thing. This is the other troubling thing I saw this morning is that China set a record in terms of their trade surplus. I mean, they're still flooding the market with goods, and so they're still winning this. And that just shows the power that they have, not just over us, but over other countries.
Make a note of this, John. I want to do a little bit deeper look at that dynamic, maybe in a future episode. I think I've read some. Yes, I think that's right with regard to China today, and they hold a lot of the cards. That doesn't have to be the case forever. I've read some things lately that actually are fairly bullish on the U.S. over the, call it coming decades with regard to that relationship. Yeah. But we'll see. And it's interesting.
And I wish, and I'm sympathetic to tariff policy, but I wish the administration would have had a more coherent tariff strategy. And I think I don't know. I think they should have done things a lot differently.
There's a fundamental question that I'm still not sure on that I think that boils down to. Was tariff policy set and pursued because it is inherently good, or was tariff policy set in order to extract more favorable trade agreements? And which one is it? So anyway, but that's another question for another day.
And I think the administration is divided on that.
I think that's right.
They can't make their decision of whether or not it's a diplomatic tool or it's an economic tool.
Yep. Okay. Well, what I think our listeners are going to want to hear from you on, John, much has been made of this recently, switching gears to your native Minnesota, is that, and not just that you grew up there, but you've done policy work in Minnesota. I mean, you still follow things up there. What is going on with regard to government fraud in Minnesota in the Governor Walz administration? As I understand that the big thing was some services inside of the Medicaid system, and that a lot of that was actually being driven by fraudulent services that were supposed to be being delivered inside of the Somali community, but across the state. What is this thing? Why is this just now coming to light?
Yeah, well, this is a major story, and one thing I want to say is that this is it's only coming to light nationally. This has been a story going on within Minnesota for at least a while now that's been talked about, and
it had been talked about in the presidential campaign, but then brushed aside by the mainstream media. So yes, to that end,
And so what we've seen here is in a variety of programs where a lot of this has been, and this shows the danger of federal money, but basically what we're seeing is at a minimum $1 billion of fraud that has been filtered here. And I just read this morning, so far 59 federal convictions out of this, and then let's just look at some of the programs. We look at SNAP, WIC, unemployment insurance, housing, Medicaid, Head Start, Pell Grants, public housing, rental assistance, and a lot of this started when the feds turned on the spigot with COVID.
Yeah.
And a lot of this went to the Somali community. And the other bad part with this is that when a lot of people within state government, even when there was people alerting to this fraud, they turned a blind eye because there was identity politics involved, because that was a voting bloc within the DFL that people don't want to upset. And so
real quickly, for I think most of our folks probably know this, the DFL is the Democrat Party in Minnesota.
Yes,
did I get that?
Yeah, Democrat farmer labor. Yeah,
for whatever reason, historical reasons, there isn't necessarily a Democrat Party in Minnesota, correct? It's the DFL.
Yeah.
Okay, I just make sure everyone knew.
There used to be a third party called Farmer Labor, and then they merged with the Democrats. And the Farmer Labor used to be a very progressive, almost radical socialist party, and then they merged with the Democrats.
Now they're just a radical socialist party.
That's right. Yeah. Isn't evolution wonderful? And so. And so you have this corruption within this community, and there was a lot of people turning a blind eye to this, to not having oversight when there was people sounding the alarm on this, and and this is quite shocking because there's and then when there was these allegations of corruption went up, then people started saying, well, this is it's just you're just being racist or you want kids to grow hungry, and
well, that's always the allegation.
Yeah.
Right.
And so and now we're seeing, okay, this is $1 billion of fraud, and this is also bringing up two larger questions, not just the fraud, but also one is the need for greater oversight within our public safety net programs, and also. And I know this is going to be controversial, but we've got to do something about immigration. I mean, there has to be, in terms of assimilation, in terms of slowing the growth of immigration, in terms of establishing some kind of controls and limits, because this is part of the problem as well.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. There's two big questions there. I'm on the first one about the oversight. Yes, there is. We've done a lot in Iowa, I think, to try and put anti-fraud measures in, which are always criticized by the progressive left.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But yet, here we have the evidence of what happens when you don't put those controls in place. But I guess Republicans and conservatives are the bad guys on all this. But okay, set that aside. Well, don't set it aside. Yes, it's absolutely true. But how is this okay? How has it been okay to just waste the money? Are we at a point where as long as somebody claims that it's for some good, it doesn't matter what the cost is?
I think that's the danger of a one-party system when they just have a powerful voting bloc and they just sweep it under the rug, so it's.
But if I put myself in the shoes of a left-wing DFL member of the Minnesota legislature, mm-hmm. I don't want that money going to fraudsters. I want that money going to the people that it's trying to help. Because, and maybe I'm guilty of assuming that everyone's got the best of intentions, but you could do more of the thing with the money.
That's right, yeah.
You could have more child services. You could have more health care. You could have more whatever the program is if you weren't lighting it on fire.
Mm-hmm.
It should offend whether you want to spend the money on more government or honor the taxpayer and give it back to him, it should offend both the same. But yet it doesn't seem to.
No.
And it's like there's a disconnect about money, that there's just a whole bunch of it and there's really no end to it. So it doesn't matter if we waste it.
That's right. Yeah.
And that bothers me.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because that's exactly what's going on here, is that there's a lot of people that just try to ignore this, and that's the really this whole story is disturbing, but just the issue to try to cover it up and just say, well, this isn't going on.
Well, I mean, I think, look, I'm not nearly as close to it as you are. There's always politics running through this, mm-hmm. and my guess is a lot of the folks that were on the take or part of the programs are key constituencies in the DFL base.
That's right.
And therefore, let's not rock the boat
Yeah.
because those people are contributing to us and they're voting for us.
Yeah.
So we need, and a big number of them are the Twin Cities Somali community.
Yes, yeah.
Which I understand now is the promised land for them. Have you seen this one now?
I have not.
There's kind of a whole meme or theme in the Somali community where that they consider Minnesota now to be the land that was promised to them. And so these immigrants are like, it's like, and I don't know if it's tongue in cheek or not, but it's like a thing now.
Yeah, that's
okay. I want to say one more thing on this. And here's where I may step on toes. And I guess I'm asking the question. We're a year into the Trump administration. Not quite. We went through Doge. We went through all the things, right? We were top to bottom. And this is just now coming like now the Justice Department is getting more interested. Now we're going to get to the bottom of this. What were we doing all along? I mean, it seems to me we knew that this is, they knew this was going on. Why did it take 10 months to get the administration plugged into this?
Yeah.
Because when we talk about waste, fraud, and abuse in government at the federal level, here it is. Here's the thing. Now, there's plenty of other things that we've pointed to, too, that we still haven't done anything about.
Yeah.
How much of the Doge Committee's recommendations actually ended up making it through Congress. But this is exactly it. And yet we haven't gotten any progress on it.
Yeah.
That's because these are money that flow through the federal government and down to the state.
I think what you just said is why so many people are become so cynical about government and so distrusting of government, because they wonder why this stuff happens and why nothing, regardless of what party's in power.
Here's what. We can stop giggling when people say drain the swamp.
Yeah.
We can stop giggling when someone is talking about the deep state. There's a uniparty system that represents the federal bureaucracy and the way things are.
Yeah.
Whether it's in human services or justice or whatever component, there is sort of this apolitical inertia to just keep doing things the same way. Yeah. Don't rock the boat.
Yeah.
That's what people are mad about because it's not accountable to anyone.
Yeah.
It just is.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and look at, you brought up Doge, and Doge is now disbanded. Yeah. And a lot of that stuff was just, Congress did not, they only approved some of it. And look at the massive protests that people said that, there was going to be, people even suffering or even dying because Job Corps was going to go away. And I mean, this was just insanity. I mean, just craziness of using emotion to exploit all this waste. And this is where the issue of big government becomes problematic, because you get so many of these programs, and I could list these acronyms here, and there's just too many.
It's alphabet soup.
Yeah.
I can see them from here. Yeah,
and you can just.
But they're programs that we have in Iowa.
Yes,
that Iowa administers just like. Well, they don't do it the same way, but they are programs that are also administered in Iowa.
Yeah, and that's why we need oversight and whether it's perfect or not, but the one big beautiful bill had some more improvements and oversight in some of those areas. But I was just looking at Vermont today, and this is just kind of a separate issue, but Vermont is struggling with, just like we are, with property tax, and they were looking at some education reform options, and looking at basically they saw that there's too much bureaucracy and administrative growth in their school system, and so they're, this is what's happening when you have this swamp.
I have a Minnesota and Vermont tie-in that was going to be the fallback trivia question, by the way.
Oh,
I had one ready to go. Yeah. It was from trivia night last night at 4-H Club.
Oh, wow.
When I took my daughter. What was the last state in the union to get a Target store? Well, Vermont.
Okay,
I guessed it right, by the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's your
that's interesting.
Your Minnesota headquartered Target stores. They're the final state to get it. It was just a few years ago, and I figured they're a bunch of anti-capitalist hippies up in Vermont. They probably hated any idea of having a big box store like Target. So anyway, got that right. Okay. So what you said, there's been some indictments on this story. Yeah. Tim Walz, I saw some clip from him where I think he was trying to blame Republicans or Trump or somehow for their own ineptitude or fraud. But is there anything else? What's the next step? Are people just going to get mad and then it goes away like everything else, or is something going to actually happen?
I hope not. Look, there's a lot of frustrating things when it comes to these type of situations because, you can just look at some of the investigations, even on Capitol Hill, and nothing comes out of them. Yeah. Where some of these committees are holding hearings and investigations.
I'm still waiting for the truth about COVID.
Yeah.
We still haven't gotten that hearing.
No. And what will be interesting is and most likely he will be the nominee again. As he's running for another term.
Yeah.
Will Minnesotans send him back for another term? And I hope not, because this is just awful.
Is he up in 26? Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll, I'm sure he's the overwhelming favorite.
Yeah.
That's what the people want.
Yeah. This is, and this goes back to, there's this Wall Street Journal column that was about this, and, they referenced the Great Society. We dumped, billions, if not trillions, into poverty, and it never worked.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about the left is that they just think that you just keep pouring money into programs and it's just going to continue to solve things, and it doesn't. And look at the food issue. We're still, even though the government's still now open, we're still seeing the issue of the food every single day, almost on the news.
It is interesting. I don't understand that. No one's going hungry out there. There's food. There's programs everywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have strong thoughts on that.
And that's the other thing with so you have $1 billion of corruption here, and yet there's supposedly still people starving. Yeah. A lot of that was going to supposedly food.
Well,
actually, it was actually going to buy real estate and cars and going to
and whatever else in East Africa.
Yeah.
To be honest,
I
haven't seen the full accounting, but by every report I've read is that some of those dollars were being funneled.
Yeah. Well, there was
back to Somalia and other terror areas.
Another corruption story I shared with one of our colleagues this week was, I think this was in the Washington Times. I forget what newspaper I saw, but there was they uncovered, more wasteful spending with the conflict in war of Afghanistan, $30 billion.
Right.
There'll be no hearings over that either.
Everything about that.
And how much
time to withdraw?
How much have we wasted on Ukraine? That's been corrupted, and
which we're probably going to end up getting a deal that shows no benefit from any of the dollars spent on it. But okay, so I guess to try and sum this up, and we touched on this, John, is what should policymakers in Iowa draw from this? Take it like if you are a legislator, someone in the bureaucracy in Iowa or whoever, someone that's setting policy in Iowa, what should you learn from this story?
I would learn a couple things. One is that I would want to review current methods of oversight in Iowa, and I would also want to make sure what lines of these federal funds are coming into the state in terms of all these programs. Many of them may not even be needed because this is just fueling corruption. That's just inviting corruption. And also looking for ways to improve oversight. This and accountability, because when this happens, it's actually hurting the people who really need the services. And so this is why we need We need this is where government, I think, can play a good role when you have good oversight and good watchdogs within the bureaucracy.
Yeah, I think that's right. We have done a lot better job of that, of putting that in here in Iowa, of doing that. But I think anyone just instinctively knows that there's always more work that could be done on improving those systems to make them more accountable to the taxpayers. And I think the other one, and you touched on this too, John, and this isn't the immigration episode, but when we bring in folks, whether they be asylum seekers or, immigrants or not necessarily immigrants, refugees or whatever it is, that does come at a cost. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily right or wrong. This statement is not to cast a value judgment on that. It is to simply make sure that we point out that when we bring populations in that need help, it costs money. And there has to therefore be a limit to how much of that generosity we're able to do. There's especially more of a conversation that needs to happen when you're just giving the money away for nothing. But yes. I think that's another conversation that we shouldn't be afraid of. It's tough because a lot of these refugees are here for a very, things weren't good in their home country. And I think as humanitarians, we can acknowledge that, but we have to say that we are doing that out of our abundance in our ability to do those things and still provide the services we want to our own folks. Yeah. And I don't know if we've reached that limit. It looks like Minnesota's reached that limit, but we need to be able to have grown-up conversations about that.
No, you're absolutely right. And not just in major cities, but even here in Des Moines, we are struggling even to take care of with our own homeless, with our own people.
No, we've got plenty of money because to do all of those things because we've got so much we can invest in soccer stadiums. Yeah. John, that's wrong in Des Moines. We've got plenty of money.
That's true.
Okay. Sorry, but, I take exception to that.
Yeah, that's that point well taken. But no, your point is valid because I was on a committee, and I won't say what committee on, but and we were part of this committee was actually talking to local civic leaders in this area, and one common theme that was brought up was the stress that's being put on communities because of the demand for services in terms of not just healthcare and education, but food, clothing for immigrant populations.
And the argument is often that we need people to fuel our economy. But if we have to net pay to have the people, then is it a win? So what is it? Are we doing it out of a humanitarian sense that we need to help? Or are we bringing people in to fuel our economy? Yeah. And it seems like that's not necessarily adding up the way it's been sold to us. But I'm not even necessarily rendering my opinion on how that breaks down other than it seems like we're still too scared to have that broader conversation.
I'll get in trouble for this, Chris, but I'll say it. But I think policy for too long has made immigration to be a jobs program, and it shouldn't be. Citizenship is never meant to be a jobs program. It's always been something higher, and I think we need to get away from it being a New Deal style jobs program and going back to what it originally was, something that's more serious and not just an economic solution.
Well, I missed my. That's neither here nor there. I like good transitions. So talking about the economy, we have run out of time for today to have a conversation. But I think this is going to work out because we are, I believe, this week going to have the December REC meeting.
Yes, on Thursday. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. For some reason, the 11th was in my mind, so that's right.
Yep.
So we're going to have the December REC, which I think now the more I think about it, I think that is going to be a good time to have our conversation about the state of Iowa's economy. Yeah. We will get some guidance from the REC about what they're seeing. I know that our former guest on the show, Ernie Goss, had a report that he released recently about the Midwestern economy. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to spoil it too much, but I think what I'm seeing is that things aren't unique to Iowa. And there are headwinds, but there are some bright spots too. And we need to kind of sift through that and like, what is really going on out there? And we're not economists, but we know some. And we know where to get the information. And so I think we can, I don't want to spoil it too much, but I'd like to have a little wider conversation about really where are we at.
Yeah. I want to share one quick story because, excuse me, I was at a conference last week, and one of the speakers was the Debbie Durham. And she shared
Director of the Iowa Department of Economic Development, Debbie Durham.
And she shared a story that I thought deserved more attention, and because do you remember? And a lot of Iowa Democrats were hammering this. They were saying that Iowa was second to the last or dead last in terms of GDP.
Yeah.
Well, that ended up being wrong because the federal government had made a mistake in the calculation. So she had shared that. I'd have to go back to my notes, and so that has since been revised. And so our GDP was actually a lot higher than what.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so, but of course, the media never reported on that.
No.
And Moody's came out and said that we were on the verge of recession, and even that had to be changed. Yeah. And so I thought that was very interesting when she shared that with us.
Yeah, there are sectors of Iowa's economy that are thriving. There are businesses that are doing well. We had an event last week at a great Iowa business that's growing, expanding, shipping product all over the world, adding employees. Great. Anyway, there are great things out there. And so we'll talk about it, the good and the bad. So we're going to have that conversation. Hopefully it's not another 2 weeks before we get around to that, John. Anyway, I appreciate you making the trip up to the studio today, though.
It was a long trip.
It was, but we got it done. At some point, I've been dangling this for a few days, and I said, John, let's just go upstairs. We're going to hit record, and we're going to see what comes out. So I thought it was good. Mainly it was good because you did most of the talking today, which usually bodes well for the quality of the content.
We might have lost a lot of listeners.
I don't know about that. So anyway, well, with that having been said, folks, thanks for joining us. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends. And with that, we will see you next time on ITR Live.